Hello and welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. This one into the Virgo full moon of the 18th of March 2022. Now it's going to happen on the 18th across all the major cities of the world, but on the screen now you can see the exact times. Now, as ever, what I'm going to do is talk about what is a Virgo full moon. What's the general impact that we can all expect to experience from that? I'm then going to go on to share the event chart to see how other planetary influences are feeding in to what will inform the following 2 weeks. But then please stay with me, because I will then go through each of the 12 zodiac signs and give you a forecast from the perspective of your sun or the ascendant, whichever you prefer to watch. Now, this event occurs in terms of Universal Central Time at 7:17 a.m. and 10 seconds. It's also known as the worm moon because obviously this is the spring that we're edging towards, so energy is slowly returning, and of course the sign of Virgo is earthy. Virgo is very much about precision. It's the 6th zodiac sign. It's governed by Mercury, which of course is about thinking and the delivery of ideas. But because it's earthy, what Virgo likes to do is produce tangible results. So very much about the physical plane. So it's making sure that our diet, our nutrition, our exercise, our life organisation, our approaches to work and where we provide services to others are all nicely in balance with the position of the Sun and Neptune very close to the Sun in the sign of Pisces. We also have Mercury in the sign of Pisces along with Jupiter. And obviously Jupiter is the traditional ruler of the sign and very much to do with growth. But the key with that Piscean energy is very much our spiritual journey, the psychological sphere, very much to do with how we feel or sense things. And on the other side of the heavens, we have that practical energy. So if we're living our lives in a super practical and material way, but ignoring our instincts, this is a full moon which helps us to realign. If we're so caught up in the emotion of situations that we're not making sure that everyday life is running quite as well oiled and as ordered as it could be, then it's a chance to bring those attributes into play. Now, if you are new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. You can also sign up for your free written daily horoscope by clicking on the link beneath this video. Been writing these for many, many moons. And if you'd like to take advantage of my special package of a character analysis and a 12-month forecast based on your natal astrology, your time, date and place of birth, please see the link below. You can get 30% off. So on the screen now you can see the natal chart for the event wheel based on Universal Central Time, and this gives us an ascendant at 4 degrees in Taurus. But of course Uranus is in the sign of Taurus along with the North Node, and Uranus is a very restless energy. So that gives us a bit of a clue. In a positive sense, Uranus is forging a sextile with Mercury. So fresh ideas can come to the fore over the next 2 weeks. But having Neptune very close to the Sun really is encouraging us to embrace as much as we can more healing and spiritual ways of being, to not just be living our lives in the more practical context of Virgo. But the moon is forging a trine with Pluto, the planet of transformation, and the sun's in a sextile. So I think there is a great opportunity here for us to really use the Pisces energy that's available to us to think about how we can bring a greater sense of tranquility and peace and healing to any part of our existence. And I'm talking about the world as a whole. So obviously the tensions that burst to the surface towards the end of February, very much because of Mars's conjunction with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, which became absolutely conjunct on the 3rd of March. Mars is very much about the ego and can be aggressive. Pluto about power, can be about domination. In the sign of Capricorn, very much about old power. And now you can see from the chart on the world that Mars has moved on, Venus has moved on from its long transit that lasted 3 months in the sign of Capricorn, where it was leveraged by Pluto. And now we have a cluster of energy in the sign of Aquarius. That's Venus, Mars in a conjunction in the 11th house, which is very friendly, very much about humanitarianism. And we also have Juno there as well as Saturn, the co-ruler of Aquarius. So that 11th house energy, very much future forwards, how we can work together. But you will see that Uranus in Taurus is in a square with Venus. So that's saying to us we might have to look again at some relationships and maybe try to rejuvenate them by a fresh approach. But that clustering of energy in the sign of Pisces is all in the 12th house, which is very Piscean. You know, it's very much about coming to terms with maybe past events. We could feel very nostalgic. We may feel very compassionate. You know, if you're someone who's very motivated to help those who have been affected by the crisis, you know, refugees or people in the countries affected, then that could be really stimulated by this full moon in a big way. But full moons, of course, do bring things to the surface. So anything that's out of kilter between the practical and the emotional plane is what we need to be working on. But you can see from this chart, there's lots of opportunities to work hard on this in a better way. You know, also the North Node is in a very good link with the Sun and Neptune, but also with Pluto. So the potential for transformation around the way we approach things as a collective through that Aquarius energy is very, very strong. But I feel that there is a big reset going on in terms of how we use resources, how we consume natural resources in particular, how we marshal our finances. And I predicted at the start of the year that there would be an increase in energy costs and an increase in interest charges, and unfortunately that is coming to pass. We've also gone through a great big epoch, if you like, of information. There's been an information war that's been raging for a long time, and I do think it was stimulated initially by a new moon in Gemini, which was in a grand mutable cross with Jupiter at that time was in Sagittarius, and that forged a discordant link with Neptune. And I forget the influence that was in Virgo at the time, but really and truly there's been a lot of tension around information. And I think what's becoming clear is more and more people are wanting to see greater clarity in the way information is presented. So that's another thing that can come from this big reset that's going to happen. But I hope that makes sense to you, and please stay with me now for your individual zodiac sign forecast. So for you, Aries, it's very much like the chart for the rest of us, because of course I'm working on the principle that Aries is the first sign, and Virgo is the 6th sign, and Pisces is the 12th. But because of the overlay on this particular chart, it just seemed to reflect very much your situation. So I think your contacts are going to be very important to you over the next 2 weeks. But it's also important that any insecurities that you may have, that you try to embrace them, that you try not to deny them, that you try to understand that there is an opportunity for Aries people with this clustering of energy in the sign of Pisces to come to terms with past losses, separations. You may find yourself feeling very sentimental about people from the past or a person from the past, or you may find a part of your life comes to an end. You may mourn something. It's a chance to let something go, but there is new growth coming for you on that wonderful vernal equinox, which emerges on the 20th of March, and I will be releasing a video about that very soon. So Taurus, for you, a collective of energy in the 11th house is competing with the Virgo energy in your 5th house. So I think you're going to be much in demand over the next couple of weeks, and it can be in a professional context as much as a personal or social one. But generally speaking, who is part of your inner world is very much to the fore. And of course, with Uranus in your sign, that's continuing to give you a revolutionary energy to overturn the status quo that may have been in place for a very long time for you. So change can be in the astral works, and it may be around your love life, it may be around your friendship circle, or even about your longer term hopes and aspirations for life. But the energy of your ruler Venus with Mars in your 10th house of work and success means that your ability to network and to demonstrate your talents to people is going to be very much to the fore in a positive way over the next 2 weeks. So Gemini, for you, this cluster of energy in the sign of Pisces is very much about work and how you connect to the wider world. But what's the impact on terms of your home, emotional and security needs? If you're so caught up with chasing some kind of big breakthrough or greater recognition or raising your profile, don't take your eye off those who supply your support structures or your own innate emotional needs. Now Cancer, for you, having this cluster of energy of Pisces, very much about opening up your world to new influences, travel, higher education, and breaking out, particularly after the long-standing restrictions that COVID has generated. But maybe there's something that you want to change in your life that somebody close to you would prefer to maintain the status quo around, and that can create a little bit of a push-pull. So if you're feeling more adventurous and more dynamic, and a partner or a family member or a colleague wants to stick to how it's been, that may be the rubbing point between you over the next couple of weeks. But maybe there could be some good news about a financial, contractual, legal matter for you over this next fortnight. I really hope so for you. Leo, now the cluster of energy in Pisces is the 8th house, what we share, but you've got a glorious alliance between Venus and Mars in your 7th house of relating. For sure, you've got Saturn in this location, which can be restrictive, and Venus, of course, is in a right angle with Uranus. So maybe a case that you need to share information, particularly around financial matters, with a great deal of accuracy and care. Use the Virgo energy of precision to make sure that you're not being too sloppy around your resources. So if you're buying or selling anything, or looking through your accounts or your bank statements or your purchases, keep a steely eye out, because it is possible that something does require a great deal of attention just to guide you through it. It may be that you're just feeling a bit dreamlike about those areas of your life just at the time when you really need to be very sharp and eagle-eyed. Which takes us to Virgo. Now, of course, this full moon is in your sign, so that means this is a full moon very much about your relationship outlook. If your relationships are working well, I think what you're being asked to do is balance your own needs against the success of those relationships. You know, you could be getting on with so well with so many people, you're actually not doing some things for you personally. If a relationship situation is less positive for you, then having Neptune in the mix means that if something does need to be discussed that's sensitive, or you even are looking for a separation, try to go about it in as compassionate a way as possible. Which brings us to Libra. Now, having Venus, your ruler, and Mars in your 5th house is so much better than having these guys in the sign of Capricorn, as of course Venus was from the 5th of November. So that was particularly challenging for you. But now, together they're giving you a lot of sex appeal, but the collective in Pisces very much about practicalities. So a kind of Virgo energy, weirdly for you. But Neptune in the mix, again, can just slightly erode the ability to see things with precision. So because the full moon's in your 12th house, particularly at work, do be aware that not everybody who shows opposition to us shows their hand. So there could be someone who's being a little bit two-faced. So just be aware that however much you're trying to, go out of your way to help others and be positive in your approach, then someone could still be a little bit picky and critical, but not necessarily to your face. The picky and critical is the Virgo, and the lack of honesty is the 12th house energy. And of course, all that gathering of energy in Pisces is intrinsically 12th house. So yeah, just watch for facts and figures, and keep your guard up a little bit when it comes to colleagues, particularly, and your professional situation. I also think when it comes to your health, that your health can start to really improve for you. Now, such a cluster of energy is out of Capricorn, but don't be tempted to do too much for others. Do make sure that you're getting enough rest and recuperation for your own self and your own needs. Which brings us to Scorpio. Well, having such a glorious set of energies in Pisces really points towards you almost being a victim of your own success at this time, Scorpio. There may be more than one person who's interested in you romantically. Maybe in a friendship situation, people are celebrating the qualities you have. Having your ruler Mars alongside Venus in your 4th house also points towards potential changes at home, but maybe to do with some improvements. If you're able, due to COVID restrictions wherever you are in the world, you may want to invite people around and play Mine Host, because that collection of energy in Pisces is very enriching when it comes to celebrating affection and sharing and joyfulness. So some good news could be about to evolve for you. Sagittarius, the collective in the sign of Pisces, is all about home, family, emotion. But your ruler Jupiter's there, but Neptune in this as well. Neptune's been a tough hoe for you since 2012. I feel that there has been some confusion about where to live, how to live there, or who with. Your emotional family life may have gone through some big changes or challenges during that time. Now, Virgo here is saying, don't take your eye off your requirements and your obligations in terms of the wider world. So if you're trying to make progress at work, some kind of home issue or family matter may require your support, and that could see you taking your eye off a big goal. So that's where you need to toggle. But with Venus and Mars together in your 3rd house, of everyday communications, if you do need to speak and articulate a message, you can do so with great effectiveness. You could also, in a romantic context, you're somebody who's your spirit, your ideas, the knowledge you have, which is often awesome with Sagittarius people, that could be very attractive to someone if you can also display your more emotional credentials, which doesn't always come easy for Sagittarians, but you have a real opportunity to display them in the next couple of weeks. Which brings us to Capricorn. Now, that cluster of energy in your 3rd house is all about ideas, belief systems, interaction with neighbours, siblings, technology, and it's a very enriched part of your situation at the moment. I also think your finances may be improving at long last, and even if there has been a big challenge due to the cost of living crisis or a job coming to a close, I think your ingenuity and imagination can help you to find a new way of being. I think having Saturn, your ruler, in your 2nd house of resources may have brought some kind of income stream to a close or reduced what you used to rely upon. But this particular new moon saying, look, have the courage to expand your realm. But the Virgo energy is saying whatever creative juices that are flowing at the moment, and I think they can be flowing really well, you need to package them in a way which works, it's tangible, it's got some substance, but that's very much in your nature anyway. So I think broadly that this can be a very positive full moon for you, Capricorn. Which brings us to Aquarius. Having Venus and Mars together in your sign just give you so much sex appeal. There's been a lot of people talking about the energies of Venus and Mars in the sign of Capricorn, but in the sign of Aquarius, this is the kind of new way of being that's going to become much more in the vogue, particularly once Pluto lands fully in 2024. It's going to have obviously a brief sojourn in 23, but I think you could be feeling good about yourself. The collection of energy in the 2nd house can be about everyday spending. The 8th house Virgo making sure that you're being very mindful of your longer term situation. Toggling the ins and the outgoings of your situation is the key with this particular full moon. So there could be, a cost that comes in that you're not anticipating. And maybe with Neptune very close to the Sun, another thing that you can do is actually be very generous to those who are less fortunate. That really would be very likely. Which brings us to Pisces. Now for you, having all this energy in your sign is about really embracing your true individuality and spirit. But of course it's a complex thing because you have Saturn, the planet of restriction, Juno, Venus and Mars in your 12th house. So it's not quite as simple as it seems. It's a bit more opaque. On the other side of the heavens we've got the moon in your sector of relating, which could be somebody close to you saying that you've been far too self-absorbed or single-minded on what's important for you, which meant they have felt a bit bereft, a bit pushed out, or even completely aligned, sidelined in some kind of way. There are times in life when we really have to stick with what's right for us as individuals, and that may be how you're feeling at the present time. But it does feel that your chart currently has a duality to it. One part of it is very much in the present, manifesting new ideas and exciting strands, but there's still something quite substantive from your past that may need just to be integrated into you. If that strikes a chord, therefore you're working on it, you're going to deal with this energy very well. If it doesn't quite make sense to you, maybe you're dealing with Saturn in the 12th house really, really well. But if there are any sort of past things that are haunting you still, and sometimes people go through very difficult situations and it's not just a case of ventilating or sharing them or even having counselling, doesn't completely rinse the effects of that event from them because it's so traumatic. I really can relate to that. So there may be something around you of an acutely sensitive nature that you're needing to work with and in some ways sort of come to terms with, yet still move forwards. But this is a very dynamic set of influences in your sign, and having your two co-rulers, co-regents, the ruler of your sign Jupiter and also the Sun all together in your sign is a real good news story, particularly with Neptune very close to the Sun. So that most kindly, sacrificing, spiritual, creative, artistic part of your nature is really given an opportunity to flourish at this particular time. But just stay mindful of how people view what you're up to and also their needs too. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay safe and goodbye for now.